Nathan, could you please tell us what your thoughts are on the UFO phenomena overall? Yeah.
Well, see, about 6 years ago, I didn't really believe that aliens would be visiting the Earth. Then I got into freedom of information releases 6 or 7 years ago, and I read so many declassified documents, hundreds of declassified documents. And I've realised if you want to know what's going on behind the scenes in government and the state, every activist should be into freedom of information releases. It shows you the inner workings of the machine that we fight against, the military-industrial complex, know your enemy. But UFOs are interesting because I've decided over the last 5 years that I don't think it's unrealistic to think that this planet could have been visited or has frequently been visited by observing aliens, right? Because I realise the universe is very old. It is billions of years old. And it's probably likely that there have been a few, at least, interstellar species. So the thing people need to understand is there's actually a question of whether it is possible for any organic species to become interstellar. Because we know when we send astronauts up into space and they're in zero gravity for lengthy periods of time, their bones start to degrade. So I wonder, and I'm not sure about the specific facts on this, but I wonder if organic life breaks down and deteriorates in zero gravity in deep space. And there are the immense distances and the immense amount of time it takes. It would take any ship, even travelling at light speed, to travel to other star systems. So there's a question of, is it even possible for organic life to spread throughout the universe? And it may not be possible that organic life can travel around the universe. We're probably more likely, and if there are wormholes as well, I want to say, if there are wormholes and if you can send ships through wormholes, it's not necessarily the case that you can keep a wormhole open to bring things back and forth through. And whether or not organic life in a ship would actually survive travelling through a wormhole, or whether it would be spaghettified and destroyed by the inner workings of the wormhole. So, when we see science fiction, we see Star Wars, and we see ships lifting up off the ground with people in them, and then they shoot off into the stars and travel to the other side of space. That's just not how space travel really works. Space travel is immensely difficult to create life-sustaining systems in the most hostile environment. Space is the most hostile environment. To keep life alive, travelling across the vast distances of empty space without oxygen. Space is a hostile environment. So, if you want to think about whether or not aliens have visited the Earth, you need to realise space travel doesn't work like it does in Star Wars or Star Trek. It's very difficult to get organic life safely from one star system to another, and it takes yonks unless you've got a wormhole. But I do think, given the age of the universe being so old, that probably there have been a few species that have existed that have colonised other planets and have spread out throughout galaxies to colonise other planets, just simply because the universe is so old. But what's probably more possible, rather than thinking of people coming here from other worlds in ships, is we can expect we might see robotic probes. See, we're already sending robots out into space, and we have one. I can't remember the name of the ship that has now left the solar system, but there's one of our ships had left the solar system a few years ago and is now going into deep space. And that's one of our first robots that we've sent, which has left the solar system and going into deep space. So what's probably more likely, if any of these unidentified aerial phenomenon are alien, they're probably more likely robotic probes that are studying our world, relatively harmless. And I do think it's possible that we could live in an age where we're witnessing the arrival of these probes coming from another species to study our world. And my thinking is, if there are these advanced species who have this technological capacity to send ships throughout the galaxy. They're probably sending ships all throughout the galaxy, not just here. They're probably sending thousands of probes all throughout the galaxy, studying all planets all throughout the galaxy. So we shouldn't feel like it would be a special thing to us, because we know that we want to send ships and robots out to study all the areas of the galaxy. And as soon as we have the technological capacity to do that properly, we will, because we're interested in what's out there. So we can suspect that even if there's a species, only 500 years more advanced than us, they may be sending probes all throughout the galaxy. Now, I want to say with the UFOs that we see in the media around freedom of information, what we keep seeing in some of these videos, we see metallic flying spheres, right? And there are several of these videos. There is the Go Fast video, where we see a metallic flying sphere, and there is a new video which was released about a few weeks ago, where again we see one of these metallic flying spheres. Now, I've seen about 4 of these videos where we see these metallic flying spheres, and the thing that's interesting about that is that a metallic sphere should not be able to fly. It doesn't have any wings, it doesn't have any propulsion, it has no engine that we can see. So we keep seeing these metal balls, and they seem to be, maybe 1 or 2 meters in diameter. They're these metal balls, and they zoom past cameras. And in one of the videos, we see this metal ball zoom past the window of a fighter jet. And I saw another one taken by a pilot of a commercial aircraft the other day, where this metal orb just comes floating past the window of this commercial airplane, and this pilot films it. So these metal orbs shouldn't be able to fly. And if they are what they look like, they're metallic spheres. So how do they fly? What are they? That's the question I ask. I don't believe any of these abduction stories about people being lifted up into UFOs. I don't think the spaceships look anything like they do in conventional pop culture. I'm interested in these metallic flying spheres, which have been filmed several times now. I'm interested in how they fly and what they are, because I think, we probably wouldn't recognise alien technology as anything familiar to us if it came to this planet. So I do think it's difficult to explain these spherical objects that soar around the planet, and they may be probes from another species. So I'm willing to consider that possibility. So yeah, I didn't believe this 6 or 7 years ago, but I have come to think maybe we are seeing some probes coming from another solar system, another star system. I do think it's possible. One thing about detecting aliens travelling throughout the universe is we need to know what to look for. So if you want to know if aliens are travelling around the universe, scientists actually have the tools to look for signatures of technology being used, like wormholes and light speed travel. So we should be scanning the stars for the signatures and the signals of light speed travel and wormhole travel. But I've become more open-minded, and I ask people, be open-minded. Maybe we are being visited by aliens.